Or maybe one of our musician friends can help us out. Hey, good morning, everybody.
Good
Uh,
morning, Skillz World.
we are live, coming to you from East Coast of the United States, New York, where we have real pizza and celebrated appropriately yesterday for National Pizza Day. And down there in Georgia, where you guys have what, like Papa John's or something?
We've got them all. Just name it. I mean, it's not New York style pizza, but
Uh,
hey,
yeah, I saw a thing yesterday that says like, "Oh, you're from New York. Please rate every slice of pizza you've ever had for us." It's like, okay, so that is a little true.
right?
Although I gotta say, last time we were down there for MegaCon, uh, I went to, I forget the name of the place, but it was right by the big Scientology thing or whatever that is right there,
Hmm.
and they said New York style pizza. I was like, all right, and that I was actually really good pizza.
Okay.
So I had to have a second slice just to eat a little crow, and it was pretty good pizza. Even my
Good.
daughter enjoyed it, and she's picky.
I mean, maybe it was like a New Yorker that moved down to, Florida.
Yeah, maybe. All right. So, good morning, everybody. We've had a chance for a couple people to log on here. So today, speaking of pizza, that is a refreshment of choice for those of us in pizza land. We're going to be talking about refreshments. Now, food and beverages will not be served today. Sorry, but yeah, if I could figure out how to serve pizza through the internet, oh man, golden opportunity.
Right.
But we are going to talk about how we refresh ourselves. We know that some of the defining characteristics of life, including the life of your business, are change and growth, movement, and very often, we tend to be uh, big fish in a little pond kind of thing. We're the kings of our castles or queens of our castles, and we spend so much time in our own schools, maybe coming up with some ideas, but we don't know if those ideas are relevant, innovative, um, or what's going on. So very often, John and I will get outside of our own schools and see what's up. Doesn't mean we're going to adopt everything we see, but it's just nice to get that, I think, kick in the creation once in a while, kick in the creativity, just to kind of keep you going. It's very easy to become stagnant, you know,
Very, very.
and when I say stagnant, I don't necessarily mean like unhealthy, you never do anything, stagnant. Sometimes stagnant comes across as doing well. You get comfortable, so you say, oh, I'm doing pretty good, so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And the problem is you're doing pretty well and you keep doing what you're doing, and then everybody else keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and pretty soon you're comfortable, hey, I'm not moving forward, turned into you're actually moving backwards compared to everybody else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's a trap that everybody falls into. It's like you make this much money per month, and everything is judged based on the amount of money that you're making, right? And then everybody's happy. And but then if you slow down, your team is going to slow down. If your team slows down, then your enrollment is going to slow down.
Yeah, what's that quote? Comfort is the enemy of success or something like that. I don't remember the exact quote, but that's it. I
We'll
mean,
find it.
if you're comfortable, yeah, you may be doing well right now, but even just things like inflation, or some fad changes. And I know martial arts and tradition, and yeah, we got to stick to it. Nothing says you have to change your vision or the way you do things, but we do want to stay fresh, right? Just like we disguise repetition in class, you got to keep
Yep.
it fresh. So uh, when we were prepping for this call, I was asking John, like, hey, what do you want to do? What'd you do this weekend? And so, John, where were you this weekend?
Man, I was at a dance competition with my daughter.
All right. So, did you have
Yeah.
a tutu?
I'm sorry?
Oh, it was her dance competition.
It was, yeah, yeah,
All
yes,
right.
yes. I am not The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. I don't wear a tutu.
Man, I had this vision. Now I have to go
I
back to
I
clothes.
I can. I can. I'm not sure how I'm gonna look in it.
Yeah, I don't know if I have the legs for it. So, uh, your daughter Marina is heavy into the dance world.
Yes.
When I was down there, I got the opportunity to hang out with her a little bit, and to we actually went to pick her up. Uh, Now, would you say it's fair that having the opportunity to have insight into the dance world um, at least flavors what you do in your school a little bit?
Oh, tremendously, tremendously. It, I like to take what is happening out there. I like to take what they're doing and say, you know what? No, I don't like that very much. Ooh, I love that part. Hey, I see this is going on. This could be a very good parent skills topic, stuff like that. So yeah, it keeps me on my toes, and I pay very close attention to what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, I used to dance when I was younger. I was never very good at it, but it was kind of required of me in order to get my black belt. We had to take dance classes. So it was an interesting opportunity to look into the world of dance and see, the things that they do well. There's also some things that I feel that they don't do well. Um,
Sure, absolutely.
or that's not fair. That maybe they could do better. How about that? Um,
Well, I agree. I agree. It's a different world of arts.
and that's it. It's when you start having perspective that's too narrow, and you see it with a lot of us as consultants. Very often, we get a certain way of doing things, and it's very easy to like make that decision, kill the emperor, go to the dark side kind of thing, and say
Hmm.
my way is the only way because I'm successful. Therefore, in order for you to be successful, you have to do it my way.
Yep.
It's a dangerous line that we all have to cross. Same thing with martial arts. If you're a martial arts instructor, you have to have a certain amount of ego and bravado and confidence in what you're doing. But it's very easy to cross that line to, oh, all the other schools are wrong and my school is the only one that does. So you have to be careful of that, and having breadth of perspective, input from so many different areas, whether you take the advice or not, is so important. So, when you said that you were at the dance competition, it kind of reminded me that the way we operate today is actually because we sat down with some friends of ours who run a really good dance school on the other side of town. Really, in fact, it reminds me of your school, the way that they're set up, even down to like the color and everything. It's like walking into headquarters. So they've got something right there. And we sat down one day and it was like, all right, so let me have a fresh perspective. Tell me how you guys do a trial process. And they said, what do you mean?
Yeah. That
So,
doesn't
what do
exist.
you mean? They're like, what do you mean trial? I was like, people don't do trials, they sign up. So, well, what happens when somebody comes in and they just want to try a class? They said, well, if we have the space and an instructor available, and it's like the child is a little shy, maybe we'll do something like that to build their confidence. But people don't try. They want dance. They come in and they're already signed up on our website. I said, wait a minute, you don't even have to do a sales. And they're like, no, it's so, I went to their website and it's, you want to sign up for Wednesday
Yes.
night tap, you sign up for Wednesday night tap. And when you get there, they take care of you. So it got me thinking. And that's when we stopped doing, about a year and a half ago, we stopped doing trials. Whereas in the martial arts industry, everybody says, well, you got to have this trial or that trial or low barrier offer. You want martial arts or childhood development, you come in, we evaluate you to make sure you're a good fit, and we're a good fit, but then we enroll you,
Yes.
right? So it was something, it works for us, but it came out of hanging out in the dance world. Um, so, like, what's something that kind of, because you're deeper into the dance world, with Marina, or even with your son being in college, that's another good, because we model after educational facilities. Do you have
Sure.
anything that kind of struck you like that maybe changed what you did or changed the way you think about something?
Dance world, they're big on, like, you don't have you pay per class. Okay. You don't necessarily have to do a membership. You don't necessarily have to do um, like a contract, right? Which a lot of the martial arts schools owners right now are doing away with a contract, which is great. But with the big dance studios, like some of the biggest dance studios that Marina went and danced at, whether it's Broadway Dance Center or Millennium Dance Company in LA, or all these dance studios, they operate on per hour signups.
Hmm.
You know, there is no membership. What are you talking about? Membership? We don't have that. You go online, like you said, and then you choose the class, and it's taught by, I don't know, Rudy Abuero. Boom, click, done, finished.
Hmm.
Okay. New York Dance Company. You've got a jazz class taught by, I don't know, whoever, and boom, click, done. And the classes are not small. So the first question, I know a lot of people say, well, how many people do they have in that class? They've got a lot of people in the class. I mean, when I'm saying a lot of people, the smallest amount we've seen in that one class is 20.
Hmm.
So when they're paying $15 per class, right? And you've got 20 dancers in there, that's $300 right there in your pocket just in that 1 hour.
You know, it's interesting because it's a slightly different model. You have to be
Yes.
clear, it is different. And I was speaking to another friend of mine who does some coaching and stuff, and he says, you know, you can't really look at the gymnastics world or the dance world because they're different than us. People know what they're getting when they walk into those schools. You're getting a jazz class or you're getting a tumbling class, but they don't know what to expect in a martial arts school. And my response is, so why don't we teach them what to expect in a martial arts school? You know, we already
Absolutely.
start to see it where, like, when we all started martial arts was an adult thing, you know, and we taught some kids, but they were right in next to us, and you kicked their little butts, and if they manned up, then they stuck around. And then we started teaching kids classes, and nowadays we teach childhood development classes using martial arts. It's a lot more standardized, and I think, like, that's one of the reasons that we do so much education in our marketing, is because I want people to know what to expect, you know, when you walk in. And the more I can get that expectation out there clearly, I think the easier it'll be for me to start selling things right online.
Yep. I mean,
I mean, I'm sold on the idea, but maybe.
you're absolutely right about that. So the dance world, the generic name is dance. Inside of that dance studio, you're gonna find hip hop, contemporary, tap, jazz, ballet, name it, right? So for us, the way we need to look at it is martial arts is the generic word. Inside of that martial arts studio, you might have kung fu, tai chi, BJJ, taekwondo. We can replicate the exact same concept that the dance world have or the gymnastics world have out there, but we don't educate ourselves. Or let's take that a step back, guys. The social media, not social media, but the media out there doesn't educate the communities or the world about the martial art world like they do about the dance world. Okay, so for example, you've got Dancing with the Stars, right? You've got So You Think You Can Dance. You've got let's see, The World of Dance with J Lo. What else do we have? We have America's Got Talent. We've got all these prime time shows that comes on seasonally, right? And they educate the world about dance. Give me a show that will do the same thing and educate the world about martial arts. The only thing that we have out there is UFC. Nothing against UFC,
No,
but
that's not what we do.
UFC is barbaric to the naked eye who doesn't understand what
Yeah.
martial arts is all about. You know what I mean? And I don't mean barbaric in the wrong way, guys.
You somebody, you know.
Yes, yeah, yeah. Like, if a kid is watching and say, "Hey, son, you want to do martial arts?" He's gonna look at UFC and he's gonna say,
Yeah. Or
no,
mom is going to say no.
no, no." Again, nothing against UFC, guys. Don't get me wrong. I watch it. A lot of my friends are UFC fighters, but it is the concept. The only thing that we have right now is UFC, but it's not even on prime time. It's not even on regular TV shows that is accessible to the average Joe and Jane out there. So we have to do what we need to do as school owners to educate the community about what we do, what's fresh, what's valuable, inside of our studio.
Now that brings up for me two points. One of which I think we have far more control over than the other. The first is you mentioned we don't have that media out there showing the world like what martial arts is. Now we do have things like Power Rangers, and that is important, because it exposes the next generation to these concepts. But when you start looking at any of the attempts that Hollywood has put out to have something like that, There was a show about 10 years ago, maybe called Black Sash, and it
Yes.
had so much potential, but it was really bad. And then
Um,
anytime you see in movies when they say, "Oh, it's going to be this and it's going to be martial arts," they hire actors. So, uh, what was that? Oh man, it's totally slipping me. The guy with the green costume and the Iron Fist, right? So they hire an actor he's a good actor, but he never did a day of martial arts training in his life. And the second you put it on TV, everybody goes, "Oh, that's horrible." Nobody's hiring
wait.
martial artists to that can
They
act.
they still do that. They still do that with the social media out there when you've got all these sponsored ads by Class Planner or some of those people, and they've got a guy out there doing a front kick or a side kick with a horrible form with the foot position, or they're trying to do, guarding blocks, and it looks
Yeah.
like I'm like, really? Like, is hiring this guy that much
Yeah.
less
So
than actually hiring a professional?
to be fair, we are far more critical of stuff like that than the average viewer. But that leads exactly into my second thing, which is that we do have far more control over. We as an industry need to show the world that there is a path forward. So if you look at dance, because we started with that example, you can go in as the little chubby kid and you learn some basic, shuffle, flop, tap routine thing, and then that's cool. And then you get pretty good, and now you're like on the competition team. There was a path forward. Now you're getting even better. They invite you to be company.
Yes,
So
yes,
now you've moved up. All of a sudden, you're going and taking master classes around the world, and then you have a position, a teaching position, and then you outgrow that and you set up a school, and it's just like a given that you're going to be either a performer or a teacher, or somehow there's a path forward. And in martial arts, what we're showing people is that the path forward is you start off because you want to learn a little confidence and discipline, and then if you want to take it the full way, you've got to jump in the ring and be a UFC fighter. So
yes.
that kind of goes back to what you were saying, like, it's not wrong. I just don't think it's the path forward that we want to show them. And for us to try to reinvent the wheel, I think is kind of intimidating. But if we can get outside of our own funk, so to speak, it becomes far easier. When I can look at a dance academy, or even into regular schooling, there's a distinct path forward that leads to, one would hope, leads to a job so you can pay off all those student loans. I only have like 80 more years on mine. So I think that's one of the areas that we would do really well to look at is, what does mentorship and apprenticeship look like in other industries? I was trained as a massage therapist. Before we did licensing in New York, it was accepted, and I think it still is legally accepted, it's just not practical, for you to do apprenticeship. But you had to demonstrate, this is where you learn, this is where you're doing your hands-on, this is how you're getting your corrective action, this is how you're demonstrating your proficiencies. I think that's one thing that we could look at the outside world and really bring into martial arts, is show them, what does it look like to have a career in martial arts? You don't have to be Mr. Miyagi or a little old Chinese guy that lives in the basement in Chinatown surrounded by incense and dragons, which is cool. And I used to think I was that guy. We need to show everybody, and we can't do that from within our own school. We need to show people outside.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, in the dance world, they've got all of that is set up. Like you mentioned, like you're going from the regular classes to, hey, why don't you come in and do the tryouts for the dance company within the dance studio? Okay. If you really want to level it up, you're going to go outside of the dance studio to really expose yourself, okay, or be exposed to the dance world in a different way, right? So you're going to go to the big dance companies, the dance companies that that we know a lot of the dancers went and danced, or maybe a lot of the choreographers out there go and teach, right? And then you hopefully get chosen as an apprentice to one of the dance companies that's on tour, okay? And hopefully you become part of their dance company because you're now an apprentice.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And maybe not just one, but maybe 2 or 3 dance companies that's on tour throughout the year. So you're out there really getting to be known. And that's exactly what we're doing with Marina right now. You
You know,
know,
and it's a really a great parallel as I think about it. You know, one of the things we hear traditional martial artists say, and I'm very guilty of this too, is, you know, well, I'm not a dance school. You know, we teach martial arts. And we want to talk about, you know, our history and our tradition and our prowess and our lineage. And these things are important. But dividing ourselves from, in this example, I'm not saying run out and find a dance school and join it, but, you know, in this particular example, dance also has a very rich history and lineage. They have very high standards that no matter where you go, they have to be, if not exactly the same. I mean, you have to have your rudimentary skills. You know,
yes.
you have higher levels of training. You got Royal Academy of Dance that really, no matter where you are, has to be this way. So it's a parallel to what we do in martial arts. But they are also always innovating. So even the most classically trained ballerina is innovating. What can she get her body to do, keeping that the basics intact?
One of Marina's dance teacher at her dance studio right now, she's a ballerina. She went out and worked in the dance world, and she did Atlanta Ballet Company. You know, she did it all when it comes to ballet. Yeah, she's also capable to do hip hop, jazz, tap. Is she good at them? No. Again, she's a black belt in ballet, right? But she's probably an orange belt or a green belt in all the other ones because every now and then, like even now, there is a twist to ballet. You can do ballet, or you can make it modern ballet, which modern ballet can have a little bit of hip hop or a little bit of jazz into it. Tap, everybody, when people think tap, everybody think of oh my gosh, what's his name, one of the famous tappers back in the 60s, Samuel's Samuel, anyway.
Before my
um,
man.
right, right now you can do hip hop, okay, with tap in it, or you can tap and do hip hop dancing. Jazz, there is no longer just simple jazz. There is simple jazz, but there is jazz funk and jazz fusion, which is fused with something else. Okay, so you know, again, it's kind of like a restaurant. It's a menu, right? But even restaurants, the greatest restaurants have a weekly special, something different that's not on their menu that people could buy. I'm not saying that's what we need to do at our martial arts schools, right? But look at all these different ideas on how everybody out there keeps things fresh, right? So therefore, when things are fresh in your studio, right, people want to come for more because they don't know what's the next fresh idea you're going to have for them.
It makes it more palatable for them to stick with the meat and potatoes too. You know, if you get that
Yes, yeah.
veggie on the side or whatever. You know, for us, like I used to go do master classes at a friend of mine has a school, and you know, back in the day, I used to go do master classes there where we would do contemporary wushu moves because it's very flowery and movement centric. And she would just have her dancers come in and take these classes. Not that they would go be martial artists after that, but they would take little elements of it. And what happened is I liked the idea so much, I started doing master classes. And in fact, in my, you know, the way that I do skills with my adults, I do it very similar to like elite skills, where we have one of our skills, we just call it the exploratory skill. And it could be anything. You know, we just finished up breaking. Next we have a judo professor coming in. Shihan Frank Bonanno is coming in. He's going to do 8 weeks of judo. I don't expect to become good at judo, but it gives me fresh perspective on martial arts. And I think it's also important to kind of do this, even not just for like our training aspects or our enrollment processes, but just with our levels of creativity. So this weekend, I got a chance to hang out with Alan and Naomi DePena. So there's some of my coaching guys. There's Skillz School in New Jersey. I love hanging with them because they are intellectually stimulating. So here's, I think, the next part of staying fresh is, even if you're going around to the dance school, the gymnastics school, the local college, and seeing all these things, if you're still only looking from your own perspective, you're not going to see perhaps the broader picture. Just like John, you or I might look at that ad of the non-martial artist doing the, we look at it from our perspective and we say, oh, that's nasty. But I think having someone with whom we can chat, and it doesn't have to be business. It could be anything. Mm-hmm. Just to, I was a hermit in my own school for like 10 years. It was lonely. I thought I liked it at the time. But, now I get to chat with you once a week, at least, if we don't chat separately.
At least once a week. That's on a very slow week.
Yeah. That's if we're both on vacation.
Yes.
Movement is movement regardless of what discipline. For sure. It's the intention behind the movement that might change. I think that's about it. So I got to hang out with the DePeñas this weekend. We went to dinner, and it was supposed to be, hey, let's hang out, have dinner. So Alan and I came up with a complete business concept for something completely different from what we're doing now. Because when you get together with somebody, you get this chance to they're your sounding board, and then they one up you, and then you one up them. But it's done in a way that at the end, you're buzzing. Same like when you go to MegaCon. What does it feel like when you're done with MegaCon?
Oof. There is so many things in my head that I want to do because of the so many different ideas that I'm like, yes. You know what I mean? Buzzing. You're right. I don't know. Overwhelmed is not the word I want to use, because people use the word overwhelmed, kind of like a lot of the kids or a lot of the parents use the word bullying. You know what I mean? Very loosely. Yeah. I like when you said buzzing. My brain is buzzing, but your brain is buzzing, and if you're not taking notes, it's hard to accomplish.
Sure. Now imagine if you could do something like that once a week. Like I get to talk to John once a week, and before the show, or you sometimes after the show, will say, "Oh, we came up with this idea." We have to do it for our own schools, but we also have to do it for Skillz. Mm-hmm. So we get a chance to do a lot of ideation. Not everything comes to fruition, but there's a lot of ideas bouncing around. I was listening to a John C. Maxwell podcast not too long ago, and he says a lot of times what happens is you get frustrated because you can't come up with ideas, so you don't bother trying to come up with ideas. And he said the phrase he used was, you can't, what is it? The water doesn't start flowing until you turn on the faucet. So he says, even no matter what it is, even if it's bad ideas, or you're doodling on a page, or you just book time to sit and stare at a wall, until you set yourself up to get those ideas coming, they're not going to come. But once they do, it gets easier to magnify it.
How many times have you been on a coaching call with some of our Skillz clients, and brilliant idea just pops in your head, and you're giving them that idea before you even implement it?
Oh, all the time. Especially the guys that already got it together.
Exactly. And they're like, have you tried that? Nope, I haven't. It just popped in my head. But it popped in my head, and I don't know, this is my engineering, I guess, mentality. Here's how I want you to do it, A, B, C, D. And if this plan doesn't work, I want you to do it this way, C, D, B, A. Okay? Now, everybody goes, well, why would you do that? I was like, because their success is my success.
Yep.
I don't necessarily have to take that idea and implement it myself to make it work. Kind of like spectrum skills. Let's just take that for an instant, right? It's a fresh, brand new idea. It's not in the market. It's roughly around 9-10 months old now, right? And everybody goes, how come you don't have it in your studio yet? Well, one, I'm not crazy enough to have it in my studio, simply because at this moment I'm packed.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm packed. I can't add something to my plate that I can't handle myself, correct? Or my team can handle. But we do spectrum skills with a twist. You know what I mean? We get 3 phone calls a week, about spectrum skills. We take them in. Everybody goes, wow, private classes, really? Hello? Who's out there that would not get $25, $30 an hour for 15 minutes. I'm sorry, $25 for every 15 minutes you teach, right? But everybody knows about us and about Spectrum Skillz. But we started it in a therapy office. We started it in a place that can give us the references, that can give us, be our sounding board, versus everybody going like, well, you don't have the class here, so how do you handle it? Okay. But those ideas come fresh, come unique, simply because it fits that business model. And that's when those ideas pop in the head.
Sure. So, like I have a couple people that I talk with that really stimulate me. And I want to pop this up on the screen real quick because this is a good quote. So here's a really important skill. We're talking about being getting things moving and ideas coming up. But let me pop this. So this is a quote from Steve Jobs. I'm as proud of, just to say, he's as proud of the things that he didn't do as the things that he said yes to. I'm in the middle of reading a book that Melody recommended to me, the 4 Disciplines book. And one of the things they say is that if you try to go with every idea you have, you're going to do them all in mediocrity. You have to be able to say which one is the wildly important goal. And, there might be 1 or 2 or at most 3. And those are the things that you put all your effort into. So, as you get with somebody, so like if you go off to a dance school tomorrow, because you heard John and Mike talking about dance schools, and you get 1,000 ideas from this dance school, if you come back and try to implement them, you're going to fail at all of them.
Absolutely.
So go out, have a bunch of ideas, and have the discipline to pick 1 or maybe 2 that, you really have clear vision of what you want it to look like, and come up with a plan and implement that. Once that's done, then you can go off to that next one and see if it even fits. Like a lot of the ideas, like you said, we come up with ideas in coaching calls that I've never done yet, because sometimes it's not a good fit for me either.
Absolutely.
Even though we're all doing Skillz, we're all running slightly different schools, slightly different culture.
Yep.
So it's got to fit what we do.
And this is why I said at the very end, those ideas fit their business model. Because that's a key. That's important. You know what I mean? When we're coaching people, we find their strengths, just like when we're doing the pre-evaluation, right? When you're doing the pre-evaluation, you're finding the child's strengths and their challenges. And when you know what their strengths are, you can literally work on their challenges through enhancing some of their strengths. And people go, how do you do that? Let's think about it. Okay. We focus so many on the challenges that we forget what their strengths are.
Yeah. There's a book. I can't remember the exact title. I think it's called Strength-Based Parenting. I could be off on that. I don't remember the author. And I haven't even read the book yet. I have a list of books, like as long as my arm. But the premise is that we spend so much time, like you said, on what's wrong with our kids. Oh, my kid won't pay attention, instead of what's right with our kids and enhancing that. And she looks at it from 2 different directions. One is, what is the strength that I can enhance so that I'll use the word diminishes or minimizes the impact of the challenges that they have, just like you said. But also, what's a different way that we can look at the challenge? A challenge is sometimes only a challenge. And here we go back to perspective. It's only a challenge because the kid won't sit down and shut up when I told them to sit down and shut up. Well, that's not a kid problem. That's a parent problem or a coach problem, right? That's our unfair expectation. So, we get a lot of, you get those parents that come in and they're like, oh, I used to take martial arts and be tough on my kid. And when he doesn't listen, you got to be tough on him and drop him for push-ups. And how come you're crying? Why are you crying? And they think that there's something wrong with their child because their child cries when there's a lot of pressure going on. And I say, okay, so this tells me that this child has a strong emotional connection to the events that are happening around them. As an adult, that person would probably make a fantastic healthcare worker or philanthropist or, Peace Corps worker. Like, even though it looks like a challenge now, that could become a strength later on. Autistic kids and ADHD kids have similar things. As children, we say, oh, they're on the spectrum, or he can't focus, he's got ADHD. But as adults, these become some of the most creative kids, those ADHD kids. I was one myself, where, you can't focus because you're like looking at all these things and it's so stimulating, and you're focusing on the wrong things. If you can realign that, now it's, all right, I'm sitting down and I'm going to write 12 blog posts today. And as I have 12 different ideas, I've got 12 different tabs open and I'm getting my ideas in. Then once I focus on one, now I finish it. Same thing with kids on the spectrum. We look at it as, not so much anymore, but I think, within the past, it was something's wrong with this child. They just view the world differently.
Yep.
And by changing our perspective a little bit, we can now take those challenges and make them strengths. So it's just like getting out of our own business. We've got to get out of our own desires sometimes. Teaching is not about me. It has to be about the student. Oh, look, Gavin's here.
Hey, what's up, Gavin?
Watching all the way from the UK. Hey, that rhymed. So that's a perfect example. So I got to hang out with Gavin and Jackson. There are Skillz reps over there in United Kingdom and Ireland. And I had certain, I guess, perceptions of how things should be, and sometimes it was, well, that's a very American concept that you're discussing there. And it's like, well, what do you mean? It's just business, but having sat with them, I think it did kind of shift my perspective and get ideas going in different directions. So, that's why when I sit with people, it's not always just my martial arts buddies either.
Yep. So I was doing a coaching call this weekend. Yes, while I was at the dance competition. You got to be able to balance things out.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy is in Japan, and we're just doing a coaching call. And he was like, what about this concept? And what about that concept? I read about this and I read about that. And I was like, okay, hold on, stop. You sound like those concepts seems to be like a negative thing to you. He's like, is that how it came across? I was like, yeah. He was like, how do you know that? You can't even see me. I was like, the tone of voice and the way you mentioned it sounded very negative. He goes, well, it's really not negative. It's just a concept that may not work here in Japan because of A, B, and C. And I was like, okay, so why don't you tell me what the martial arts studios in Japan do, and maybe I can help you that way. So again, we got to keep it fresh, right?
Mm-hmm.
We got to keep it unique, all right? But we have to do it in a way that's going to meet their way, their culture, their standards, their social media, whatever the case may be. That's what we need to do, or that's what we do.
And sometimes it's even legal issues. Like I got a chance to talk to Jackson. I had a certain perception of what the privacy rules over in Europe are. And I was off the mark because we look, as Americans, regardless of political affiliation or who should have how much control, we do tend towards a little more personal freedom, I think, than a lot of other places. So to me, what do you mean I'm not allowed to send an email? What do you mean the government's telling me who I can talk to? But once we kind of went through it, it was, okay, now I kind of see why. It was almost one of my professors in college used to call it psychic armor. The second something doesn't vibe with you, you get this like, you get that physical response and everything just shuts down and you say, no, that's not. And yeah, exactly. When you try to do the sales call and they're like, yeah, I'm not paying that much money. So having that non-aggressive, like they're not trying to sell me on GDPR. I don't even have to worry about it really. I mean, yeah, I do, but I mean, it's not something that I deal with every day. It doesn't really affect me. So being able to look at it from a parallel perspective was really helpful. So that's why, like, a lot of the people that I speak to are not even martial artists, or they're in other countries I have some friends. I was an exchange student in Turkey in high school, so I still have some friends over in Turkey that I'll bounce business ideas off of every now and then, just to see, like, what are the strengths and weaknesses about it? Can I cross a language barrier? Because we also have a lot of immigrant families in our area, first, second generation. Some of them are, quote unquote, fresh off the boat, and they're still well steeped in their own traditions. So if I try to force them to do what I do, it's not always going to be a good relationship. So being able to speak to other people from other cultures becomes really important for me. I have to be able to at least make that first line, hey, I've got you kind of thing. And then we can talk about how to turn you into an American martial artist.
An American martial artist.
American martial artist. Man, somebody in China just rolled over in their grave.
Exactly.
All of them. And we're doing it using play-based learning. Oh, no.
Yes. What is wrong with these people?
So how else do we get input? Like, not everybody has time to run off and have play dates with their friends and talk about business stuff. I mean, I read a lot. I also listen to podcasts and stuff.
I don't know who. Oh, it was a post that I did in the pre-Skillz group. And one thing that we all, as martial arts school owners, need to keep in mind is, again, we fall on this, in this concept, we fall into our own demons. Is that the right word? I'm a black belt. I know how to do it. I don't need the help. I don't need this, and I don't need that. And this is why your restaurant or your martial arts studio per se closes down super fast, or you end up on that, the laws of nature, right? All I need is 200 students, or all I need is 100 students to break even. Well, dude, you just said that out loud. And this is why if you lose 2 people this week, you're going to gain 2 people this week. This is like laws of nature, because it is what you said out loud. It's what you put out in the universe, right? Versus, you know what? 200 is what's going to help me break even in the studio. 300 students.
Is that the one?
Yes, that is the one. 300 is where I'm going to be able to have students, team, and the freedom to be able to go to my daughter's dance competitions and travel with her, so she doesn't feel like dad is always working and he's not there to watch me compete. Like this weekend, seriously, bro, all of her dances got either first place, okay? On top, in the dance world, it is the first place winners, right? But that is what they call like the level up, which is like the master level, which is either on the edge or judge's choice, or like you're beyond first place. You're almost like a near perfect score, right?
Like a grand champion sort of concept.
Yes, exactly. So 3 of her dances got on the edge, which is the highest. The other 4 got first place, right? And then to top it off, she was in the 5 top dancers in her age group throughout the entire competition, right? Now, as a dad, I wouldn't want to miss that. Next weekend, she's going to be in Chicago. I can't make it, but that's cool. The following weekend is going to be nearby. I can go to that one, right? But because everything is balanced in the studio, I've got the numbers, right? And again, if you can, just put that quote up one more time, because we all think based on like this moment, right? We don't think about what's ahead of us. We don't think about how we want to be there. So again, your mind must arrive at your destination before your life does, right? My mind says, I want to be here, right? I'm still here at my destination, correct? But I got to get to where my mind is. So with that said, every martial arts school owner has an instructor, right? Like you have an instructor that you go to and see, don't you? Like you got to continue your training somehow. Even when you're the highest of the highest, right? They still have, like, say, the Grandmasters group that they get together and they train together once or twice a year, right? But every martial art school owner or any business owner needs to have that mentor in their life aside from that instructor, aside from that person, simply because there is that biased relationship. There is that relationship of, Mike, I know what you've been through all your life, man. That's okay. Do well. Versus, I was having a conversation last week and I was like, listen, you're either going to shit or get off the pot. She was like, John. I was like, seriously, you keep on talking about that same individual.
If you guys don't know John, when John uses a potty word, he's in very, very rare.
Like,
in fact, I think in 3 instances have I heard him use a potty. One of them was over the past week or so where we got a couple potty words out of him. But for him to say a potty word, that means he's really passionate.
Like, you keep on talking about that one team member in your studio who's not cutting it for you. Oh my God, dude, listen, I'm so done with that. Like, I'm so done with it. Why are you hanging on to something that ain't working? Right? Either find somebody else or try to motivate that person and find out what motivates that person. If he's a person that's really going to help you take your business to that next level, find what's really going to motivate that person. Not like, well, he's not working hard enough, so I don't want to give him a raise. It doesn't always have to be a raise.
Yeah. In fact, guys, if you're working with millennials who are not as young as you think they are, they're in their 30s, you're working with millennials or Gen Yers, money is actually not the primary motivator. They understand they need it, but they more want to have impact and recognition and have a positive effect on their immediate world and the world around them than they want money. I'm not saying don't give them money. It is, we all need it, and you should recompense people. But, that might not be. And having somebody to tell you that is exactly what we're talking about today. Getting somebody to give you a fresh viewpoint instead of, oh, this millennial. Somebody that could take you aside and say, hold on. Yeah. We have off-screen guests. Somebody that can take you aside and say, come here, let me show you something. And go down to the soup kitchen that's run completely by millennials because they don't even care about money. They just want to make an impact and say, is your instructor who's a millennial having this kind of impact in somebody's life? Well, no, because, let's give them the opportunity maybe. And I'm not saying it's a definite, but it's a maybe. You need that alternate perspective.
Yep. Every mentor must have a mentor. Melody has mentors. I have my martial art mentors, I've got my business mentors, and I've got my sounding board mentors. So yes, and I am more than happy to be paying for all 3.
Absolutely.
And the sounding board mentors are the ones who level things out for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, if you're driving solo, and you're on that road from, I don't know, East Coast to West Coast, and you're getting tired, most black belts will say, I'm just going to push it through 1 hour. I'm just going to push it through the 1 hour. You eventually crash. You will eventually crash. So
check this out. George says as an instructor, he got a trip to the Super Show and his school owner paid it, and it was awesome. Now, I'll bet you if that school owner gave George however much it costs to go to Super Show, George would have said thank you and been very happy and probably gone out and blown it on something like, maybe even something meaningful. But that instructor spent the money to go help George become better at what he does.
Yes.
And hopefully George went into Melody's seminar because that was probably the best seminar there. No personal bias at all.
It was, standing room only for her seminar. Every single year we went to the Super Show for her seminars. It was standing room only at the moment.
Yeah, learning is also worth the money, he says. So that's like the gift that keeps on giving, Yep. So we're looking at, with my Storm team, I bring in guest instructors, but I'm looking at this year sending my instructors out to other places to go take a class, not necessarily a martial arts class even. Maybe I want to send them out to like a Toastmasters seminar to learn better public speaking. That's something that will help them no matter where they go. I want to send them out for teaching seminars, not martial arts teaching, like legitimate public school education seminars.
This is why the workshops that we host at Skillz HQ, they're not martial arts seminars, folks. They are business seminars, they're relationship seminars, they're oh man, like social media seminars. It is not necessarily martial arts concept. It is a concept that any business owner that comes and attends that seminar, they can definitely turn it around for their business.
Yeah. And
VIP day. Ooh.
You know, that's like something that I took out of the dance world too, taking it full circle, having those master classes. They don't have to be what we do every day. And in fact, they are more powerful if they're not.
Yeah.
And like you said, VIP day is going to be that. You're going to have people there who are experts in their fields. In this case, all related to martial arts somehow, because it is our industry. But the fields in which they are experts are not necessarily martial arts fields. And it's going to be some pretty mind-blowing stuff. And I've just only looked at my own presentation so far. Not to toot my own horn, but one of the things I have to learn how to get better at.
To toot your own horn?
That's right. I'm probably the most humble person I've ever met. So, I'm more humble than anybody else.
As he looks over to Heidi and gets her approval. Yes, Heidi's behind the scenes.
You know how it is. Every time Melody is like, well, I need a bio so I could post it on such and such. I'm like, I don't know what to write. Hi, my name's Mike. I'm not good at my own horn like that. I'm getting better though. So, let's kind of recap a little bit because we're coming up on the end. So we know that when we hang out in our own schools too much, we stagnate. Even if we think we're innovating and think we're doing new things, we're not really being as big as we can possibly be when it comes to that. So it's important for us to get out of our schools, both for martial arts training. You should still be doing something for that. And for personal development, business development, looking around at other industries and taking what you can from them. In our case, for both John and I, it happens to be the dance industry that we talked about today. I'm sure, I know every time I go to a restaurant or to the supermarket, I'm looking around. What's things I can take home with me? The salt and pepper shaker, and it's important for you to constantly widen your perspectives, hopefully by having mentors or just by asking other people their opinions. You don't always have to take it, but ask it. And I think one of the best ways to do this is going to be by going to www.megaconescape.com. Here comes the shameless plug, right? So MegaCon, May 14th through the 16th. It's right on the beach, which environment is also important for this, guys. You love your schools. I love my school. I would be here all the time if I could. But you got to shake it up. When you shake up your environment, you shake up your mind, right? When you are now in this beautiful beachside resort, you relax, and things start flowing.
How about this? Just quick, free coaching. I'm going to put this one out there, okay? Some of the school owners will go, oh, I just don't know how to leave it. I don't know how to tell my parents that I got to shut down for 2-3 days, blah, blah, blah. If you're struggling with that concept, call me or call Mike, message one of us. You know what? Let me speak on my behalf because, Mike is not the one who said the free coaching.
For it?
You're up for it? Okay.
I'm up for it.
So shoot us a message. We'll chat and we'll tell you how to make it beneficial that when your parents hear that you're shutting down the school because you're going to learn, we will tell you a step-by-step process of what you can do to make it absolutely fruitful. But you got to do it today. Don't come in April and tell your parents that you're going to close in May because of MegaCon. No, you got to prep it today.
Here's a free tidbit. Most of the worries that we have about what parents are going to say are not parents' worries. They are yours about the parents' worries.
Yes.
What if? No. the parent doesn't care.
No, they don't.
The parent doesn't necessarily care about the things you think they care about. Like when you raise rates or you change to Skillz or you shift your schedule. Oh, what are the parents going to say? They think this. How do you ask them?
No.
Or did you just assume that that's what they think?
You know what happens when you assume?
Oh, yeah.
There's a big old peach.
John's from Georgia. He knows about peaches. So last time we were down there, we were driving along. I couldn't help but laugh because we had just finished up a fitness challenge at my school that was all about, toning up your peach. It was all squats and stuff like that. And all the imagery was like bodies with peaches. Like if you don't know what the peach means, you're probably a little too old for this. And, but talk to one of your kids. So down in Georgia, and every road sign has this big old booty peach on the sign. I'm just like, oh my God, I got to move here. But so, I don't know. I guess you had to be there.
I guess you're a peach kind of guy.
Yeah.
Man of culture, I see.
Yes, man of culture. I think we've got a little off topic here.
We're keeping it fresh, bro.
Yeah, you got to have fresh peaches. So anyway, back to the parents. A lot of times we put our own fears in their mouths because that way it lets us feel safe. Yes, I want to do this and I know I have to do it, but they're the ones who are going to give the problem. When really, if you can go in and say, all right, the parents may have this concern, that's a fair statement. They may have this concern. This is how I'm going to address it before they even have a chance to ask it. And it's the same with your sales calls, guys. If you're always getting price objection, you need to satisfy that objection before they have a chance to ask. And guess what? You'll stop getting price objection.
Let me throw this one at you as well. All your parents are working parents. 90% of your working parents have to do continuing education classes anyway every single year, if not every other year. Here's one hint that you can just let them know. This is your continuing education class. And by the way, MegaCon is not for Skillz members only. This is for all martial arts school that are Skillz. I mean, Skillz members get a perk, a huge perk, right? But if you're not a Skillz member, this is going to benefit you tremendously.
Yeah, and our friends watching from UK, we got a bunch of UK friends coming over. So, chat around yourselves, see who's coming, and maybe you can hook up, share a room. I know it's expensive getting over here and everything. But, look at it this way. John, if I said, I need you to give me $1 out of your wallet right now, but tomorrow I'm going to give you 10. So we have a level of trust where if I say that, he's going to believe me. If you have the level of trust with your parents and your school that you do what's best for the kids, and you said, Mrs. Johnson, Mrs. Smith, and Mrs. McGillicuddy, we're going to close next week for 3 days. But when we come back and you list off of all the things that you're going to be able to provide better for the kids, don't you think that they'll be okay with that?
Yep.
And if they're not, if they are vehement about, I paid for Friday, you need to be, well, that might not be the best person for your school.
Yep.
Or not that I would chase them off, but I'd say, well, unfortunately, this is what it takes for us to be the best instructors around. And if they go, they go. If I can't change their minds about it. All right, so we are right up here at about time. So if you guys, like John said, if you need help with this, reach out. We'll hook you up with some assistance to be able to get there, or just to bounce an idea off of. If you're a Skillz member, you have access to us anyway. If you want to go above and beyond, we'll go for some coaching. But if you just got a quick question or you need a quick direction, hit us up anyway. But we want you to make this happen. We want you to be successful because in the grander scheme, for every one of you that we can help become successful, we help our industry. And we help our industry become what it needs to be so that we can help more kids. And when we help more kids, we can help the next generation. See how this kind of has Me helping you get to MegaCon is going to help us do far more for this world than just getting you to MegaCon. So we have big vision. You're just one piece of it. Well, I don't like the word just. And you are one piece of it. How about that?
There you go.
That's better.
Yeah.
So definitely get onto right there. It's going past the screen right now. MegaConEscape.com. Get those tickets if you're a Skillz member and you want to take advantage of your perks and you're not sure what they are or how to get them. Let us know and we'll get you set up. All right, Mr. Salama. Well, thank you for your time today.
Same here, Mr. Evans.
And I know we have some stuff to plan for the upcoming quarter and to prep for MegaCon. So I may be bouncing some ideas off of you later on.
Let's go.
All right. All right, you guys.
The juice is flowing.
Yep. It is now up to you. This was your Monday kickoff. You got the whole rest of the week to get it.
Peace out, guys. Go crush your week.
All right. Catch you later.